1, 2, 3, 4.
Hola.
Hola.
Buenos dias. Mi nombre es Timoteo. Good morning, everybody. I'm Tim, and I have the great pleasure of serving as minister of this esteemed progressive congregation. Bienvenidos a la Iglesia Unitaria Universalista de Fresno. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Fresno, California, on this, our annual Earth Day service. Welcome to everybody on our virtual campus. Let's give a wave to those folks. Welcome to everybody here on our Alluvial Ave church campus. We are truly one congregation in many places. If you are on our virtual campus this morning, now is the perfect time to share this live stream with your Facebook or YouTube friends and followers. Don't be bashful. Invite them to join you at church this morning. We also acknowledge that our Alluvial Avenue Church campus sits within the traditional homelands of the Yokuts and Mono peoples. As Unitarian Universalists, we welcome you no matter your race, culture of origin, age, spiritual background, or religious beliefs. We welcome you no matter your disabilities, the amount of money in your bank account, your level of education, or your neurodiversity. You are welcome with or without documentation, con papeles y sin papeles. As Unitarian Universalists, we not only open our doors to people of all sexual orientations and gender identities, we value diversity of sexuality and gender and see it as a spiritual gift. Todos son bienvenidos aquí. If you're on our virtual campus and you wish to share a personal joy, sorrow, concern, or gratitude, both on the virtual campus and here on our Alluvial Avenue campus, type it now in the chat box. This is that thrilling moment to type your joy, sorrow, concerns, or gratitude in the chat box. We'll write them down, and we will give them to Ida Jones, our worship leader, so she can include them later in the service. If you don't do it now in the chat box, we won't have time to include them. And speaking of Ida Jones, how wonderful it is to have her live in person. Normally she's up in the Sacramento area joining us virtually, but here she is live. And I also just want to take a quick moment to celebrate something that happened this week, a big win, I would say, for justice, a big win for the LGBTQ community, a big win for the Tower District, and its unique and vital role in the city of Fresno, the heartbeat of Fresno. I am glad that City Council did the right thing, voted to purchase the Tower Theater, to preserve it. As we know, there will be a long, protracted legal battle ahead that will be costly, but justice takes time, and justice often costs. So again, for all those council members who did the right thing, and we won't mention the names of those three who didn't vote with the Tower community. So give yourselves again. We are wrapping up our annual pledge drive, that fascinating and fun time when members and friends of the church make financial commitment for the next fiscal year. Basically, that lets us know how much money we'll have to fund our budget. I am proud to say we are now at 103% of our goal of $612,892,000. There are a few stragglers who have not yet made their pledge and will be so excited to accept it. And now in the chat box, in person, or in that sacred silence of your own heart, let's take a moment to greet one another, to say, hola, buenos dias, good morning. I see, yep. Yeah.
Day spa.
Yeah, there you go. I like it.
Okay.
My wife had to take our youngest to the hospital. So,
Just leave the folder there.
Okay.
We'll be in touch about.
yeah.
From Arkansas. Okay, right, right. And we have some in Mississippi too, so.
Breathe.
I'm not in the band, so I shouldn't be doing that. Well, I am so happy to be in the Alluvial campus. I'm not here very often. I enjoy this next move of getting us settled and centered in our locations, whether they're virtual or on Alluvial Avenue.
My Lord, she said unto me, do you like my garden so fair? You may live in this garden if you'll keep the grasses green, and I'll return in the cool of the day. Now is the cool of the day. Now is the cool of the day. Oh, this earth is a garden, the garden of my Lord, and she walks in her garden in the cool of the day. Then my Lord, she said unto me, do you like my garden so pure? You may live in this garden if you'll keep the waters clean, and I'll return in the cool of the day. Now is the cool of the day. Now is the cool of the day. Oh, this earth is a garden, the garden of my Lord, and she walks in her garden in the cool of the day. Then my Lord, she said unto me, do you like my pastures so green? You may live in this garden if you feed my sheep, and I'll return in the cool of the day. Now is the cool of the day. Now is the cool of the day. Oh, this earth is a garden, the garden of my Lord, and she walks in her garden Do you like my garden so free? You may live in this garden if you'll keep the people free, and I'll return in the cool of the day. Now is the cool of the day. Now is the cool of the day. Oh, this earth is a garden, the garden of my Lord, and she walks in her garden in the cool of the day.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I love it. Good morning. Buenos dias. Mi nombre es Ida Jones, and I'm a member of the worship arts team here. If you have a candle or a chalice, bring it close, as we'll be lighting it soon. I'm a wannabe gardener. Some of you may remember my gardening was temporarily suspended when I found slugs. Lots and lots and lots of slugs in my garden. I've done some research, and I now have some ideas about how to use plants and maybe beer to deter the slugs. So I'm trying again, this time to plant fall vegetables. So why? Why go through all this trouble? It's because I love being outside. I love feeling the earth, watching things grow, and this partially fulfills my need to connect to the earth. The earth is my mother, and I love her. And I love spending time with her. So connecting with the earth through gardening or other outdoor activities such as visiting the beach, walking in the mountains, they all provide me an opportunity to generate and maintain inner calm and serve as a reminder that this is a world we should protect as much as possible. In that spirit, I invite you to light your chalice at home. Tim, are you ready to light the chalice on our Alluvial Avenue campus?
Ida, the pressure feels great, but I will do my best.
Let us rise now in body or spirit and join in singing the song of praise, which is probably the most popular hymn in contemporary Unitarian Universalism, Blue Boat Home.
2, 3, 4. Sail and my sailor song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have known. Why do the verses the ocean travel? Move on home.
For the mission statement. La misión de la Iglesia Unitaria Universalista de Fresno es amar inclusivamente, crecer espiritualmente, servir con gratitud y trabajar por la justicia. The mission of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Fresno is to love inclusively, grow spiritually, serve gratefully, and work for justice. Now you may be seated. Whether here on our Alluvial campus or attending virtually, let's share a moment of spiritual practice as we connect to our breath, as we breathe in peace, breathe out love. We breathe in peace and breathe out love. One more time. We breathe in peace and breathe out love. As we continue to breathe together in this shared sacred space of hope and possibility, let the breath carry us back to the last 7 days. And as we breathe, we take a moment for reflection. Where in the last week did you witness kindness? Some of us entered the Alluvial Avenue sanctuary this morning and chose to write a personal joy, concern, sorrow, or gratitude on the cards on the entryway table. Those on the virtual campus were invited to share theirs in the chat box. Here are some of those sharings from the heart. Betty F., I am so thankful today for this pale blue dot, as Carl Sagan called it from the photo of our Mother Earth taken by the Voyager way out in space in 1990. Patty P. has a joy. Happy birthday to Darcy. I won't say her age, but it ends in a 9. Happy birthday, Darcy. Nancy H. shares a joy. Special thank you to Joya Frank, who is behind the scenes as a virtual greeter. Thank you. I welcome, as someone who's on the virtual campus much of the time, I appreciate the virtual greeters, so thank you from me also. Sabina has a sorrow. Wildfires are raging in New Mexico. Millie S. also has a sorrow. Lost my soulmate, the only one who really got me. Tweety S. I'm so sorry. Tom has a gratitude. We have sun, puffy clouds, and joy today. Valerie J. has a gratitude. Thankful for Broadway with Tim last night. Evan S. has a gratitude. On this Earth celebration, I am so grateful for all of us in the environmental movement. On this planet we strive to rehabilitate our ecosystems. Thank you to everyone who has shared their joys, gratitudes, and concerns. And for those of you who did not share those in writing, thank you as well. We remember, too, our beloved church members and friends who are living with health challenges, compromised mobility, or other impacts to their well-being. We lift up Edith H., William H., Laura G., Molly K., Glenda R., Pat M., Al G., and Brandon E. We also lift up Jocelyn and Jason. Beyond our congregation, we continue to decry Putin's war crimes and atrocities against the citizens of the Ukraine. This past Friday, we marked the annual Remembrance Day for those who lost their lives in the Armenian genocide perpetrated by Turkey. We celebrate that this upcoming Tuesday, April 26th, is Lesbian Visibility Day. And we pause to remember that this upcoming Friday marks the 30th anniversary of the first day of the LA uprising that was sparked by the acquittal of 4 police officers in the savage beating of Rodney King, a black man. 30 years later, the persecution and murder of black persons by police officers continues unabated. Most recently, there was the funeral of Patrick Loyoya, who arrived in Michigan from the Congo, thinking that it would be safer to be in the United States than it would be in the Congo. And yet he was killed by a police officer. As we hold all that has been shared here this morning and all that lies in our hearts, we light our candle of community. We also light the second candle to honor the 6.21 million people worldwide who have died in the COVID-19 pandemic. This includes 989,000 Americans. We also light this candle for the families and friends of those who have died, and the family and friends who are left behind to grieve their loss. As is our custom, on the first anniversary of a church member's death, we light a candle of remembrance. Tim, who do we honor today?
Ida, today we honor the life of Shirley Valet, who passed into the mysteries of death 1 year ago. We celebrate her long and remarkable life, her fun-loving, caring, brilliant life, devoted, a life in which Shirley served gratefully in so many different areas. She was a pillar of this church for decades. She was mother, grandmother, and friend. Her work with the League of Women Voters and Food Addicts in Recovery Anonymous changed so many lives. Her generosity to so many over so many years remains her hallmark. Her palpable love and support for her children and grandchildren never wavered amidst the challenges of life. As I said last year in her celebration of life, Shirley was a hearty, warm person, ready and willing to help anyone at any time. She enjoyed being a mentor to aspiring young women in their chosen careers. She was wise in the ways of setting goals and staying the course to achieve them. And she knew how to share these skills while being optimistic and sunny as a person. She never met a party she didn't enliven, a birthday she wouldn't remember, a night of theater or music she wouldn't savor, a poker game she wouldn't play, or a social justice cause she wouldn't support. If you'd like to honor Shirley's life from our virtual campus, I invite you to type SV for Shirley Valet. And Ida, you're going to introduce our call to meditation.
Yes. As these 3 candles burn, please join together in our call to meditation. Voice still and small.
1, 2, 3. Voice still and small, deep inside all, I hear you call, singing in storm and rain, sorrow and pain, still we'll remain, singing, calming my fears, quenching my tears, through all the years, singing, again your voice, dentro del ser, oigo tu voz, cantando, encendidos, llanto y terror, siento tu amor, cantando, siempre darás calma y solas en mi pesar, cantando.
This has been a somewhat challenging week. I moved again, this time for the last time, I hope. My son purchased a house, and I, of course, had to invade the house and My reason was to take care of my 2 grandchildren that he is a single father of. I am grateful, though, for the fact that we moved, because I am able to have a larger garden. I hope as you meditated, you also thought about some of the joys that we experience every day, and especially from the earth, our home. I forgot who in the cards mentioned the sun and the clouds and all the beauty of the earth, but we are grateful for that. Now we will have a musical meditation.
About 3 or 4 years ago, Keyshawn White presented as part of a panel discussion here at the church on climate change. Keyshawn White at the time shared about a project that he was undergoing here in Fresno, the placing of air quality monitors throughout the region so that he could study the pollution difference, the air quality difference between Southwest Fresno and North Fresno. Keyshawn is one of this city's most passionate, devoted environmentalists, devoted to working to reverse the course of climate change, as well as reverse the course of the discrimination in this city that has proportionally impacted underserved communities of color. Keyshawn's leadership has been recognized by My Brother's Keeper, the social change nonprofit founded by President Barack Obama, working to empower and mentor boys and young men of color. Keyshawn has shared the stage with President Obama. Please welcome back to our church one of Fresno's most important activists, Keyshawn White.
Hello and good morning, everybody. My name is Keyshawn White. Just a little bit about myself. I'm born and raised on the southwest side of Fresno. I'm 21 years old. When I started my project, it was just for a simple question of what's going on in my community, and that transferred from how can I fight and advocate for my community, and then that transferred from what lane is my lane in the fight for my community. And the lane I chose was environmental justice. And the reason why I chose environmental justice was I felt like it was appropriate because at that time I was going through respiratory issues, and I didn't really know why. A lot of people in that area were suffering respiratory issues and not knowing why. But from that, I wanted to figure out what was affecting my body, and comes to find out it's the pollution that was getting polluted by I can't remember what the plant called, but it was not too far from my apartments at the time, and started educating myself about how these plants or this pollution can affect your body in the long term. And it's sad to say not a lot of people in my community know about this, so I felt like I had to take it upon myself to advocate for that. And so what I did was I partnered with multiple youth groups and figured out ways to build up my advocacy skills so I can fight the good fight. Now, I've been working my project for almost 6 years now. I know it's for a young person, it's a long time. And through this journey, I met incredible people, awesome networks. Many of my mentors is like, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. So it's not only with environmental justice that what my project kind of holds in, but the big factor is this community in itself. So I like to kind of pan my project out into like kind of factors. So one of them is youth engagement. So I like to go into schools and engage the youth about environmental justice and the health risks of living in bad air quality. Another aspect is air quality monitoring. So in the midst of my project, we felt like it would be appropriate to kind of represent the whole Fresno in terms of air quality monitoring. So me and my mentor set out on purchasing these purple air monitors and setting them up as much as we can around Fresno. We partnered with Fresno Unified School District to set these monitors up at their high schools, which was at the time 12, I think around 12 or 13 monitors. And then we created an app around these monitors. So let's say you're at Sunnyside High School in the area, you could just pull up the app and you can see the AQI at Sunnyside and around that area. And so we felt like that was appropriate not only for the schools, the students, the faculty, but the parents most definitely for sure. So monitoring, youth engagement, and community involvement. So right now, my project, we're actually looking forward to a partnership with NASA in terms of upgrading our monitoring system around Fresno, California. And with this upgraded monitoring system, we're also going to try to tie it in with the curriculum at Fresno Unified and Clovis Unified Schools. So not only me, but students in Fresno can start learning about this higher grade technology in terms of air quality monitoring, because why not? And from that, I'm pretty sure I'm trying to push into policy change and create a Green New Deal around Fresno to pretty much to put the pressure on these high emissions that's going around Fresno, especially the industrial triangle that's close to Malaga Elementary School. We're fighting a good fight to push back on rerouting the truck system so it's not going straight through the southwest side of Fresno. But I know it's kind of a lot I just dropped on y'all. I'm open for questions, though, if there's any.
Could you tell us about the tree planting project that you're also leading?
I'm sorry. My mind goes a million miles per second. So we just tied up our Tree Fresno campaign, which was pretty much building the Fresno tree canopy. So we located a lot of areas through Fresno that's lacking a lot of green spaces and a lot of trees. And when, let's say, if we don't have a lot of trees in a certain area, it creates a heat island effect. And a heat island is pretty much the sun beating down on the pretty much the concrete and the roads and creates a pretty much hotter temperature in your area. So, and crazy story about that. I would say I was like around 10 or 11. Well, I was telling my mentor, like, when we bus from the north side of Fresno and come to the southwest side, it's like extremely like hotter. But he thought we was just crazy. He's been saying it until they actually came out with a report of the heat island effect and was like, man, this youth was telling me that about this for years now. So, and that kind of opened his eyes to like never kind of second guess a youth perspective on their environment, because they're the best ones that's going to not overthink it like us adults do a lot. So in the midst of, go ahead.
Keyshawn, I read recently in the papers that Fresno is carrying around Fresno as one of the worst air quality places in the United States. But within Fresno, what is the worst part of Fresno?
To be specific, it's the southwest side of Fresno, and there's many factors that can tie into why the southwest side of Fresno is kind of got the bad air quality in Fresno, because we all know Fresno in a whole has bad air quality, but to be specific, whereas the pinpoint the bad air quality is in Fresno is the southwest side.
Let's give it up for Keyshawn.
Thank you. Have a beautiful day.
Before we have our sermon in two parts, I invite us to rise, embody our spirit, and join in singing a song about the climate crisis. The tide is rising.
1, 2, 3, 4. Tide is rising, so are we. The tide is rising, and so are we. Tide is rising, so are we. This is where we're called to be. This is where we are called to be. The task is mighty, so are we. The task is mighty, and so are we. So are we. This is where we're called to be. This is where we are called to be. Storm is raging, and so are we. The storm is raging, and so are we. Storm is raging, and so are we. This is where we are called to be. This is where we are called to be. The world is ready, and so are we. The world is ready, and so are we. The world is ready, and so are we. This is where we are called to be. This is where we are called to be. The tide is rising, and so are we. The tide is rising, and so are we. Tide is rising, and so are we. This is where we are called to be. This is where we are called to be. Tide is rising, and so are we. Tide is rising, and so are we. Tide is rising, so are we. This is where we are called to be. This is where we are called to be. This is where we are called to be.
Please be seated.
It is my great pleasure to introduce our two guest speakers who will offer the sermon this morning. Connie Young is a retired registered nurse and mother of 2 adult daughters. She became interested in environmental issues when she joined the Unitarian Universalist Church of Fresno about 15 years ago. She retired a little early to work on climate change. She's a member of the church's environmental and social justice teams, as well as the Untitled Chapter of the Sierra Club and Citizens Climate Lobby. Our second speaker is Katarina Friesen, who is a pastor at Wild Church and an organizer for climate justice with the Dismantling the Doctrine of Discovery Coalition, a faith-based group that seeks to address ongoing colonization of indigenous lands. She loves gardening as a practice to connect with the earth and tend ourselves, and volunteers with the Insight Garden Program to grow healing gardens with incarcerated people in California state prisons. I look forward to hearing from both of our speakers.
Good morning and happy Earth Day. I'd like to thank the Sunday Services team for the honor of speaking here today, and Tim and Worship Arts team for their assistance as I prepared. Thanks to many of you for inspiring me to get involved in environmental work. The sermons I've heard here and those of you working on environmental justice and stewardship issues have challenged me to get involved and then stick with it. I'm especially indebted to senior members of this congregation, like Shirley Valet, for their advice and words of encouragement over the years. That meant a lot to me. And now that my hair has turned gray, I'm trying to pay it forward. Perhaps the main reason I joined this church was because it was planning to build a LEED certified sanctuary. I was impressed that this congregation was willing to put its money where its mouth was and live out its UU values by resting lightly on the land. But back to Earth Day. Why talk about it now? With the twin existential threats of the climate crisis and the potential for World War III in the news almost every day, why talk about a single day filled with music, laughter, good food, and new ideas? Because more than ever, we need to celebrate and savor our planetary home and enlist more people in protecting it. When it comes to my approach to environmental work, I like to think of it as pleasantly subversive. The same might be said about Earth Day. After all, who wouldn't like to go to an event where you can test drive an electric vehicle or learn about incentives for solar panels or sample a luscious vegan dessert? But while you're there, you might sign up for a River Parkway hike or talk to somebody from the Sierra Club about the CEMEX plans to blast a hole by our river. And soon, you're hooked. It's not that I don't care about serious environmental issues. Any of you who have talked to me for more than 5 minutes know that I'm passionate about climate change. But my other passion is Earth Day, so that's my focus today. You see, I am an Earth Day-ophile. Don't bother looking it up in the dictionary, it's not there. Not even Google could find it, despite that there are 277 other words that end in ophile. Nevertheless, I am an Earth Day-ophile. I just really like Earth Day. I suspect it may be genetic. My late Aunt Ibby really liked Earth Day too, so maybe I'm channeling her. Like any good ophile, I really like sharing this interest of mine. I'm guessing that some of you don't know about the connections between this church and the local observance of Earth Day. So, I'm going to begin with a brief history lesson. And what history lesson would be complete without a pop quiz? So, those of you on the Alluvial campus may just call out your answers, and those of you online may type them into the chat. So first question. What book helped to inspire an environmental movement that led to the creation of the EPA as well as the first Earth Day? Was it An Inconvenient Truth, The Lorax, or Silent Spring? Yeah. By Rachel Carson, it documented the adverse environmental effects caused by the indiscriminate use of pesticides. That was Silent Spring. Next, what environmental disaster inspired then Senator Gaylord Nelson of Wisconsin to organize what came to be known as Earth Day? Was it the Santa Barbara oil spill, Hurricane Katrina, or the Dust Bowl? Yep. The Santa Barbara oil spill was the largest oil spill in the U.S. waters at that time, and it remains the largest oil spill to have occurred in the waters off California. Next, what photo is known as, quote, the most influential environmental photograph ever taken, close quote? Was it the 1969 moon landing, Earthrise, or the blue marble? Aha. The answer is Earthrise, which was taken by astronaut William Anders in 1968 during the Apollo 8 mission. The first crewed, that's C-R-E-W-E-D, crewed voyage to orbit the moon. So you're doing great. In what year was the first Earth Day held? 1950, 1970, or 2000, also known as Y2K? 1970. Earth Day was first held on April 22nd, 1970, to demonstrate the support for environmental protection. It now includes a wide range of coordinated global events involving over 1 billion people and more than 193 countries. Next question. What member of this congregation helped organize the first Earth Day teach-in at Fresno State, which was known as Fresno State College at the time in 1970? Was it Dick Haas, Betsy Temple, or Sam Zutler? Yes, that would be the late Dick Haas, a Fresno State professor of biology. Here he is, 40 years later, speaking at Fresno Earth Day here at the UU. Just an aside, can you see the masks on the demonstrators? I don't know if they show up there. According to the caption, a dozen art students illustrated the noise and cultural pollution that envelops us every day. They wore earphones and plastic face masks and ran simultaneously a buzzsaw, a huge vacuum cleaner, a radio, record player, and tape recorder while gazing at a blank TV screen. In the ensuing years after that first Earth Day, there were sporadic observances in and around Fresno. A cleanup here, a lecture there, a tree planting somewhere. No doubt UUs were involved in them as well. Then, in the early 2000s, a group of organizers held several annual Earth Day events downtown in Courthouse Park. After 3 or 4 years, they stopped holding them because reportedly PETA objected to their plans to have llamas or some other live animal at the event. A few more years went by, and the Leadership Fresno class of 2007 hosted an Earth Day event at Eaton Plaza. Our church had a booth there and displayed this model of the LEED certified building that was then under construction here on Alluvial Avenue. Last question. When did the UU Church of Fresno hold its first traditional community-wide Earth Day event? Was it 1970, 2008, our first year in the new sanctuary, or 2010? In 2010, the Green Sanctuary and Social Justice Coordinating Committees and a class at Fresno Pacific University collaborated on what was to become the first of many annual Earth Day events held in Fresno. We held it here for 2 more years until the event outgrew the campus and moved to Courthouse Park. But as you can see, UUs were still very involved. That's UU Betty Cornelison on the right. From there, the event moved to its most recent home at Radio Park. As you can see, this congregation has been integrally involved with Earth Day every step of the way. Since 2010, the church provided meeting space, the venue for 3 years, and generous financial support. It also contributed human resources, including much of its leadership, Stolen Thunder and other UU musicians, and many, many volunteers. Please wave if you've helped with an Earth Day event, or type ED in the chat if you've helped out. Yeah, lots. Our involvement has led to mutual support and alliances with many local environmental organizations. This event, after all, is about making connections between people and organizations, humans and non-humans, and between us and our planet. It also helps people see that the things that are damaging to our environment and climate are also harming people, including us. Now, you may recall that I said that I was often challenged by UU sermons. So today, I'd like to challenge you to do 2 things in honor of Earth Day. First is to talk about the climate crisis. Many climate leaders have said that this is one of the most important things we can do. Try having a conversation about it with someone who may have a different opinion, a coworker, a friend, a neighbor. I'm not suggesting, however, engaging with an outright climate denier, but rather someone who might be willing to have a reasonable conversation with you. You might begin with something you share in common: family, friends, a hobby, a favorite hiking place or fishing spot. If possible, link your common interest to climate change and express your concern. For example, let's say that you and a friend both like to ski. You might say, "I had a heck of a time finding snow this winter. How about you?" If your friend had a similar experience, then broach the subject of climate change. You don't need to change their minds. Just listen to their point of view and ask if you might share yours. The important thing is to keep people thinking and talking about this subject. You can also mention the climate crisis in a letter to the editor, a blog, or other social media posts. Asking questions about climate change at candidates' forums and town hall meetings are a great way to make candidates, elected officials, and the audience aware of public concern about this topic and get candidates' opinions and statements about it on the public record. My second challenge is to join or become more active in an environmental organization. Protecting the environment is not a spectator sport. Here are just a few of the better-known organizations that advocate and educate about climate change, air and water pollution, and land use issues. And here are some of the groups that offer environmental stewardship opportunities. And of course, there are lots more organizations. Of course, one of my favorite organizations is Earth Day Fresno, which is incorporating to become a year-round organization. In addition to hosting an annual community Earth Day event, we envision it augmenting the collective voice and impact of our many environmental organizations and connecting the community to our local environmental movement. If you might be interested in serving on the board for Earth Day Fresno and or planning next year's Earth Day event, please contact me at my email address that's on the screen. Earth Day can and should be every day as we connect and work with others who share our UU vision for a healthier and more equitable world. As a member of this church's environmental justice and sustainability team, I became connected with the newly formed Fresno Interfaith Climate Alliance. And there, I've had the good fortune of becoming acquainted with our next speaker, Katarina Friesen. As you will learn, Katarina is in New York right now, so she's recorded this reflection and another Earth Day challenge for us today. So, thank you, and here's Katarina.
Hi, my name is Katarina Friesen. I'm a descendant of Mennonite settlers and immigrants, of refugees from Ukraine who settled in California's Central Valley on indigenous Yokuts lands. I'd like to share a simple message this Earth Day related to my work with indigenous peoples and why I'm currently in New York when you hear this for the UN Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues. I work with a faith-based coalition addressing the intersection of climate change and colonization. We're called the Dismantling the Doctrine of Discovery Coalition. Some of you might have heard of the Doctrine of Discovery, maybe not. We seek to address the ways that the European Christian so-called discovery of indigenous lands, the discovery of lands that, of course, were already inhabited, resulted in a really harmful international legal system that continues to strip indigenous peoples of their lands and livelihoods today. Under colonization, indigenous ecological knowledge and ways of living in reciprocal relationships of respect with their homelands, practices that developed over thousands of years, are being replaced with an industrial model of consumption of resources that really are limited and finite. In other words, we're taking too much as settler societies from the earth without giving back. Colonization has turned gifts from Creator, land, water, trees, minerals, into resources and commodities to be bought and sold for profit. And that system is not working out very well for all of us, as we can see evidenced by the climate crisis around us. Yet indigenous peoples are still here, and around the world they are on the front lines of climate change and environmental justice, protecting sacred waters, protecting lands, resisting fossil fuel pipelines, challenging extractive industries like mining and logging. I came to the UN Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues with a colleague to accompany a Maya delegation from the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. They're facing threats to their land and waters, and their collective organization, called Ka'kuxtal, is seeking an intervention at the UN Forum to appeal for a response to the issues their communities face. Here's a quote from one of the delegates who's representing the Maya community describing some of these challenges. He says, quote, "Our sacred territory has a spirit. Water is a sacred being. We see today with profound pain that the sacred water is being poisoned with agrochemicals, overexploited by genetically modified monocultures, and other mega development projects in agro-industry, energy, real estate, and of neocolonialism, like the Maya Train project," unquote. All these forces that he named, industrial agriculture, the use of heavy pesticides, fertilizers, and GMO monocultures for export, are destroying Maya forested lands. Mega development projects sponsored by the state of Mexico, like the Maya Train, which you can look up after you hear about this, are going through their region without the free, prior, and informed consent of Indigenous peoples, as outlined in the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. I want to read a quote from another representative from the Maya community. They say, "Water is a sacred source of life, the lifeblood of Mother Earth. We have subterranean waters moving underground in our region. So when there's contamination in one area, it doesn't just affect that area. This is the water that we want to give to our children and to future generations. And so we see the importance of defending our rights so that future generations can have clean water." And this is the message that I want to share this Earth Day along these lines. We are all interconnected, like water. Martin Luther King Jr. talked about this. He said, "We're caught in an inescapable network of mutuality. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly." In my Christian faith tradition, we say, when one part of the body suffers, the whole body suffers. One part affects the whole. Yet our global economic system is set up to pretend like parts of our body don't matter. We're sacrificing members of our global community, our neighbors, in order to keep other parts fed, watered, and comfortable, and secure, and oftentimes very wealthy. We need profound, fundamental shifts in our relationship with Earth, including deeper dependence within the local bioregions and watersheds where we live, so we can relearn the limits of the lands we call home today, on the indigenous lands where we live. And so we need each of you and the communities that you represent. I invite you to pause and consider, how might a view of land and water as sacred impact your advocacy for climate justice? Land and water, not just as objects to be used, but as subjects to be respected. How can we join our advocacy together for ecological healing and work with Indigenous peoples locally and globally who've been in the struggle for a livable future for over 500 years? And another question for you to consider as I close. Can you easily separate water once it's united? Can you separate land? And can you separate us when we are of one spirit and one beloved community? My hope this Earth Day is that we will wake up and recognize our interconnections and our power as communities, standing in one spirit, standing with all who defend the sacred. Thank you.
There is a heartache in these hills. I am not afraid. There is a heartache in these hills. I'm not afraid. There is a heartache in these hills. Though some may tremble, I am still, and I say, Hope lives in these quiet hills. There is a sadness in the land. I seek the taste of hope. There is a sadness in the land. I seek the taste of hope. There is a sadness in the land with more sorrow than we can stand. But I say, hope lives in these quiet hills. There is a sorrow in my heart. The taste of hope is sweet. There is a sorrow in my heart. The taste of hope is sweet. There is a sorrow in my heart, but I can feel the healing start. And I say, hope lives in these quiet hills. I say, hope lives in these quiet hills.
I'm green. There we go. One of the things that makes me very proud about Unitarian Universalism is we don't just talk about the environment, environmental justice, and the climate crisis one time a year. It's just not an afterthought. Within our 7 sacred principles of Unitarian Universalism, soon to be sacred 8 principles of Unitarian Universalism, is the 7th, where we affirm and promote respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part, which means it is a core part of who we are as a religion. It's who we are as spiritual people. And that is why, just one reason I'm proud today to be a Unitarian Universalist. We've heard words like flow, we've heard words like connection, we've heard words like hope. This is that very brief moment in the service where I ask all of those on our virtual campus for that flow, for that connection, for that hope that allows us to continue our religious mission in this city and in this Central Valley, uplifting values that we believe need to be heard amidst the conservative religious voices of this location. So we ask, as you're able, to make a contribution. In a moment, a slide will appear, and letting you know how you can do that with things like Cash App or credit card. Folks on our Alluvial Ave campus, you'll be able to drop cash in the basket on the way out. You can drop gold bullion there, and also very large checks if you wish. Your smartphone will be also welcome if you wish to make a contribution that way. In this spirit, please join me in our words of offering. If not us, then who? If not open hearts, then what? If not now, then when? If not here, then where? If not generously, then how? If not us, then who? Thank you for your generosity. May this church continue to be worthy of the many forms of your gifts.
As we prepare to end our service and enter into our afternoon, please join us in our chalice extinguishing words, led by Karen and Troy.
Extinguimos esta llama, pero no la luz de la verdad, el calor de comunidad o el fuego de nuestro compromiso. Estos los llevaremos en el corazón.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts.
Before I offer the closing words, followed by our song of benediction, I have just a few reminders. Please allow the socially distanced section to exit through the side doors first, then everyone else can follow. We hope you will join coffee hour outside in the courtyard. We especially invite our newest friends and those just checking us out to join us. We want to meet you and discover who you are. Don't be shy. And for our longer-term folks, please remember that someone you might not know yet may be the exact person you are meant to talk to today. Our all-church picnic returns on Sunday, May 1st, after the service at Railroad Park, just up the street on Alluvial Avenue. We also are planning a picnic for our virtual campus. Stay tuned for more details. Our annual flower communion service is Sunday, May 8th. Be sure to bring a flower with you either to our Alluvial Avenue or virtual campus. And now, if this is your first, second, or third time with us on our virtual campus, please let us know in the chat box. Let's see. So here on our Alluvial Avenue campus, if this is your first, second, or third time with us, we ask that you stand up for just a moment so we know who you are and can gently welcome you. We won't leave you standing alone for long. Now, I invite the congregation to stand with them for our closing words and our song of benediction. The closing words are an excerpt from the poem, The Green Plant by Ebuka Wafor. The green plant is always proud to represent nature while it nurtures. It prays to the heavens for rain and faithfully lies on the soil for nourishment. It expresses joy when the wind blows and radiates freshness when the sun glows. It produces flowers beautiful enough for our decorations. It grows leaves essential enough for our respiration, and it produces seed crucial enough for our consumption. Above all, its natural existence creates a synergy with other creatures, significant for our environmental conservation. May it be so. Blessed be. Amen. And Ashe.
2, 3, 4. Safe passage on
Shalom and assalamu alaikum.
2, 3, 4.